everyone, this is the third episode of Dear Expats podcast. My name is Polina.
And my name is Julia, and we are back here today to read your letters and to reflect on it, to maybe share our similar experiences, if we've had one.
Or not.
Not.
Please subscribe to us. Please share our episodes with your friends on Instagram, on Facebook, via WhatsApp, I don't know, wherever you want and can. This is very important for us and to find our listeners. Please, let's make our community wider and cooler. And today we'll start with 2 letters from the couple. Hi, my name is Alona and I moved to France 2.5 years ago. I moved to study at university and specifically my university required me to take an intensive French language course for 4 months. I thought everything was going great. In those 4 months I jumped from A2 level to C1 level, just like my friends. The snag was that we had almost no contact with French people of our own age, only the French teachers and the families we lived with, mostly elderly people. I thought I was absolutely ready to learn and socialize, but when my francophone classmates arrived, I was literally shocked. If I tried to talk to French people, I was tired within 10 minutes. I didn't want to speak French at all. I didn't want to socialize. I started to avoid contacts. I spent a lot of time alone in my room. Of course, there was also a feeling of frustration and not understanding why such a seemingly high level was completely lacking. It took me a month to adapt at least a little, and one French friend who sincerely wanted to communicate with me and patiently explained to me the cultural code and obscure words. I had a lot of questions at that point, and here are some of them. Is it possible, without living in the country, to learn the language to such a level that there are no language-related adaptation problems? Is it possible to cope with such adaptation problems without the help of an outside person? In my case, it was a French friend. Do many people in general face language-related adaptation problems? I heard that in France, in general, there is a very high language threshold. Threshold, right?
Threshold, yeah.
Okay. You have to speak French very well to be socialized. It was interesting how such adaptation goes in other countries. It was a long letter.
Well, it was a lot of thoughts. What do you think? Like, have you ever had problems because of the language barrier?
I think the first point I want to mention is elderly people. It's very funny because in our previous podcast, I told a story about my friend. They live in Spain and they are going to excursions every Sunday with elderly people.
Right.
Because it's a really simple way to communicate with people from your country and from your city, and it's a little bit easier than your own age guys.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that elderly people are helping us like this. I don't know. Actually, I've learned French in school at university, and I can speak a little bit, but I think French is not so popular and wide used as English. So I think I didn't meet such a problem because I never lived in the countries where you can't use English everywhere. And France, it isn't this type of country. Actually, they love their culture and language, and it's good. I think it's great. But you need to know and speak language. Do you have such a problem?
I did actually, yeah. I mean, now we live in the Netherlands, and here it's completely different from Alona's experience because everyone speaks perfect English, and there is another problem. If you try to speak Dutch and it's not perfect enough, they will still switch to English, so you can't really practice. But when I was living in Italy, there they also have like this huge problem with speaking English. I was talking to some of my university classmates about that, and they mentioned that their school education system is not really good for learning English language. That's why they find it really hard to learn it and to speak it. And yeah, they prefer to switch to Italian in any possible moment. And I was living in a small town, so most of the students there, they were not internationals, they were Italians, and I hang out with them. And it was a really frustrating experience because I think that I know Italian like around A and 1.5, somewhere in between. So I can understand what they are talking, and I could understand what was going on around me, more or less. But I couldn't express myself. So I couldn't jump into the conversation. And I was like always stuck in this like corner of the room when someone would like notice me and come talk to me in English. And like, oh, so you don't speak Italian? I'm like, yeah, that's that's completely the point why I'm left out. But on the other hand, when they did try to switch to English and it was so like difficult for them, I felt really sorry for them and I didn't want to force them to do it. So I was like, oh, come on, go on, speak Italian. I can understand. I just wouldn't talk much. Then maybe a couple of swear words just to show that I'm a cool type.
I don't think that we can give any advice. Maybe, I don't know, like maybe you should start watch Friends in Italian or something like this. So take something really comforting for you, like serious, or I don't know, maybe you can. I remember when I've learned French in school, I was a fan of Chodasen, and we have our Thursday singing lessons. And it was like, Salut, c'est encore moi. Salut, comment tu vas? And we translated it. And I was so proud of myself that I'm truly understand what Joda-san is singing about. And it was so, I don't know, I was so impressed by myself. And maybe you should start to try to connect with Italy and with Italian language through the culture, which is common and empowering and I don't know, like funny for you. Maybe you should start with songs, movies, series. I don't know. I remember that sexy pop group from Eurovision. Do you remember them?
Maneskin.
Maybe you should start with them. I don't know. I don't like them, but I love pop culture and I think you can connect with anything through it.
I think it's a really good advice, though Alona is living in France and living French, learning not Italian. But
Whatever.
yeah, it could work. It could work. But I think,
So Joe Dassin is working here.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Speaking English is really not really but pretty hard for you too, even you're learning like for the whole life, and we can speak with mistakes, but we can speak, and I think we're doing great. Okay, we're doing great. And this Sunday I was on Russian tradition celebration. It calls Maslenitsa. This is kind of like the festive of the start of the spring. So you're eating pancakes. They symbolize sun and all this stuff. And my friend, he lives here for 3 years, I think. And first 4 guests were Russian speaking. One girl from Ukraine, 3 of us was from Russia. We're from Russia, and we were speaking Russian. It was so good and comfy and all this stuff. And after that, like in 30 minutes, I think 10 people came with really different background. It was girls from Italia, one girl from Cyprus, couple from Sweden, one couple, he's from Sweden, she's from Estonia, but she's Russian speaking too. And I think it was like 16 people in pretty small room, and everyone was speaking like Italian, English, Dutch, Russian. And I was exhausted in an hour. I said, oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I need to go, blah, 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 blah. Because it was hard. It was hard to speak English with person who actually doesn't speak English in his like normal life. And it's really hard. So we are sending Alona, I don't know, hope.
And support.
And
Yeah,
support,
we feel
yes.
the same.
And this is a story about men and women. We're so sorry, but still, you've heard Alona's letter, and now you will hear her boyfriend's letter, and you just can compare their problems. So. Dear Expats, getting a dog was hard as fuck. At first, I lived in Russia with my girlfriend, Alona. Well, lived is a strong word. She was in Novosibirsk, I was in Moscow. I think I need to comment this. It's kind of 3 or 4 hours flight. So Russia is pretty giant. So
yeah,
2 different cities. This is not like normal situation in Netherlands when you live in different cities because it's like 20 minutes train. This is really, really, really far away.
And we should probably mention that Novosibirsk is this famous Siberia part of Russia. So you can imagine that like Moscow is like the central, more like European part, and Siberia is like closer to Asia. So
no, actually, Siberia is the center of Russia. I think Moscow is.
Yeah, I mean about like how they call it geographically.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so it's really far from each other. I had my parents' apartment all to myself. She was in dorm, hardly the best setup for getting a dog. Then the war started. She moved to France. I started traveling the world. At some point, I settled in Budapest. But I knew it was temporary, so getting a dog didn't make much sense either. Then I moved to the Netherlands for my master's, and now both of us live in dorms, just in different countries. And I still want a dog.
Wow.
But pets are forbidden in my dorm. I kept telling myself, once we move in together, once life becomes stable, that's when we'll get a dog. But then a week ago, I was walking past my dorm and saw that someone on the first floor had a corgi, just sitting there, wagging its tail, and everyone passing by, vibing. And I thought, maybe I shouldn't have waited. Maybe I should have just gotten a dog 2 years ago and figured things out along the way. Then again, for the past 3 years, I had a dream, which is worth a lot, and way fewer problems with moving around. And who knows, what if I'm actually allergic to dogs? Maybe I shouldn't get one at all.
That's quite a storytelling.
Yes, and I think I need one more part of the story. Why he wants a dog so much? Is a dog symbol as a home, or you want to? I understood that he has a long distance relationship still, so
Yeah.
maybe you want someone to be with. Because when I have a long distance relationship too, not so long, but oh no, I live in Netherlands. My boyfriend lives in France. It's the same, and I have mice. I thought about this before. So when my boyfriend left to Paris, like a couple of weeks ago, I thought that if I had a dog, actually, it will be not so lonely, not so frightening from mice and all this stuff. Because this letter is very storytellers, but a little bit maniac too. That's why I want to understand the reason of this hot dream.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I have this.
And I think Alona either.
Yeah, well, probably she doesn't have such a strong urge, but I can relate to it kind of because I really want to have a cat, like really badly at this point. And I've been also thinking about it, but just a bit in when I was living in Moscow. But my owners prohibited me from getting a pet, so I just didn't do it then. But then, actually, I was feeling that my life was quite stable, and I was ready for that. But then I started moving, and I also lived like in a shared apartment. I lived in an apartment, but I knew it was temporary. I lived in a dorm, and now I have a pretty stable apartment situation. My lease doesn't allow for pets, but I learned that you actually can't prohibit it in the Netherlands. It's considered to be a human right, but I still don't do it. I've been living in this apartment for a year now, but I still feel like it's too much of a responsibility. But back to your question, like, why do I want it? I also ask myself this question, but I just, I feel lonely a lot, I guess. And it would be really nice to have, like, someone you come home to.
Is it about responsibilities in immigration, or is it about responsibility at all? Because it's funny, when I was reading this letter, I heard my grandma's voice. Dog? You don't need a dog, you need a baby. You're adults now. And it's kind of interesting too. So are you talking about responsibilities, or are you talking about like immigration, dorm, and all this stuff? If you hadn't dog in Russia, or if you hadn't cat in Russia?
I think it's both. I think that in general, I'm kind of afraid of taking responsibility for another like living creature. But I just feel like in the immigration, like providing all that I'm supposed to provide as a pet owner would be more difficult because your rent situation could change more unexpectedly. You don't necessarily always have people who you can, leave your pet with because your social circle usually is like smaller. And then also, like, what if you have to move? Like, I think that in immigration, you think about it more often than when you live in your home country. That's why you kind of consider it when taking a decision to get a pet more thoroughly than you would if you were living back in your home city.
I think you need to have some like funny dog or funny cat to like embrace yourself in this immigration.
Yeah, I agree with you that probably, and I'm realizing it actually as we speak, it definitely wouldn't get easier at any point to get a cat. So you just either take on that responsibility if you're ready or you don't, and maybe you will become ready later. But not because of the circumstances has changed, just because like grew or became more confident in yourself in that way?
I think that spring is really good time to take a dog because you need to walk a lot. And
Now it's very sunny. It's such a good weather in Netherlands right now. But I think you should take cat better in autumn because you'll spend more time at home, less trips, all this stuff. So I don't remember the name of the author.
Igor.
Igor, take corgi now. Yulia, take a cat in autumn.
Okay, I have my birthday in September, so it should work.
Okay. We need to present you a cat?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I can handle
Yeah.
it myself.
Yeah, you need to choose it, I think, by
Exactly,
yourself. It's
yeah.
really strange when. Okay, that's another theme. So, our third letter is ours, actually.
Yeah.
So, Julia, let's start with you today. What is your problem? What is your circumstances of life right now?
Okay. I've came back from Paris just yesterday evening. It was a short trip, and it kind of made me think about the way my attitude to traveling changed since I've immigrated. Because I remember back when I was living in Moscow, it was always so exciting to go somewhere. I remember traveling to Budapest first time after the COVID restrictions were lifted, and I was like so happy. It filled me with so much energy and like joy, and I could really relax, even though it was, I think, my second time being in Europe by myself. So everything was like strange and unfamiliar, but it just was really, really exciting and energizing. And now, as I reflect back on my trips since I've immigrated, it just feels tiring. I think it's the most like profound emotions that I have about any trip that I've been to lately is that I'm just so happy to be at home, like to fall asleep in my bed and to not worry about something new, to just not have to go out on the weekends and do some sightseeing. I don't know. So for me, Paris was like this very huge dream. I was postponing this trip, I think, for at least a couple of years now, because since I moved to Italy, I could go across Europe freely, but I haven't done it because I had so much expectation, I guess, on so many like levels. First, you like learn about it when you just grow up and you're at school, and it's like this huge symbol, and then you start to like learn more about the culture, about the painters, about the new wave cinema, all that kind of stuff. So you just, and then Emily in Paris, obviously, you have just, I don't know, like so much to expect from that city, and then you come and it's just a city. It's just another decoration for, I don't know, like some thoughts that you have at the moment, for some problems that you are living through, and you don't feel much excitement at all. I mean, I had this a bit of like a wow moment when I first saw the Eiffel Tower, but that was that. Other than that, I was just thinking, oh, the metro here is like so much less safe than the Netherlands. There are so much more people. I always have to take metro to get somewhere. I couldn't just walk. And oh no, I stayed at a hotel. I missed my bed and that kind of stuff. And I was so frustrated with myself. I was like, come on, you're in Paris. Try to feel something.
come on, Paris, go for it.
Exactly. But yeah, I just didn't. So I spent 3 days sightseeing, and the last day I was just working in the library. It was actually a very nice experience, and I
Love working.
love libraries.
Needs to go for a drink to work.
Well, it was still nice to kind of feel more like local, and because at that point I was in the Marais district and I was there quite a lot during the trip, so I kind of became familiar with that, and I think that was the first time where I could kind of feel relief because of some familiar place that I found. So I think that after immigration, what changed about taking a vacation is that you just seek for place where you can rest instead of finding excitement or trying new things.
I understand you. I have two thoughts. The first one, now when I'm planning some trips, I'm planning to see someone. It's not about town anymore. It's not about country anymore. It's not about culture or museums. It's about someone to meet my friend, my ex-classmate, I don't know, my colleague, for example. This is the first idea. The second idea, I understood that now every trip is good for me if I have a bus there. So if I go to Paris, it will be no bus, it will be vacation. If I go to Rotterdam and got a hotel with a bus, it will be great. And the third thing I want to tell you, I think that you sound a little bit crisisy, because I think that
Maybe now you're spending a lot of energy to rethink and rebuild your future, and maybe to spend a good time, you need to have energy actually for a good party, for a good date, for a good sex, for a good I don't know, excursion, for example. And maybe you were out of this energy in Paris. But I love Paris. I think it's so, I don't know, I remember the last time I was there, it was September, I think. And I came like at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening on Friday. And my boyfriend met me there. And I was going along the streets and I was just switching my head from side to side. And I said, wow, girls are so beautiful. I forgot about it. They're so stylish. And I was so upset that I didn't get my expensive bags from my past life and all this stuff. And I don't even have a pair of like nice fancy shoes because I live in Netherlands and I don't have actually good options to go like to theater, to opera, or to some private parties. It all stayed in my past life. And I was so impressed. They were so beautiful. And city is beautiful and it's much more romantic. I think you need to fall in love and then to repeat this experience one more time, maybe.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you are totally right about me being like not in the best place to get excited right now, probably. But of course, Paris was very lovely, and I'm actually kind of relieved that this whole like veil was unveiled from from this image in my head that I've had. It was still a very nice city, and I totally agree with you on the people being very well dressed and pretty there. I really missed it. I think that I saw at least 3 men that looked exactly like Louis Garrel, and I think it's like 2 more than you need to call a city a really good one.
Yeah. So maybe we will go to Paris sometime together or something like this. And I wish you a great experience of trips. And I wish it for myself too, actually, because I'm pretty tired too. And it's kind of exhausting to plan something unfamiliar, some new city or in some new country. I'm exhausted too. I totally understand you.
Yeah. Sometimes the best rest is just lying on the grass in the park, and it maybe
And if you have hotel by the park with a bathtub.
okay. I think that could be arranged.
So thank you. That was our 3 letters. And this was the 3rd episode of Dear Podcasts. Dear Podcasts, Dear Expats, Dear Expats Podcast, Dear Podcast of Dear... Okay, so you got it.
Yeah, we will be back soon with the new letters to reflect on, so please don't forget to write us. We have an email in the description.
And we have our website.
And we have our website, so please don't forget to share it with your friends. Don't forget to write us the comments in the platforms where you listen to us. You can also write us your thoughts, not just a full letter, and come back for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye!